Superman, Ride of Steel. One of the tallest and fastest coasters in the world. Over 20 stories high, more than a mile long. A searing 10 seconds of weightlessness. Now at Six Flags New England.
Superman Ride of Steel was the first hypercoaster in the New England area, and immediately upon opening in 2000, would become one of the best steel roller coasters in the world. It finished as a top 5 steel roller coaster in the world for 20 straight years, from 2001 to 2021, from Amusement Today's Golden Ticket Awards. Even so, this ride over the years has become one of the most controversial coasters in the coaster community, with many saying this coaster is overrated and doesn't deserve its place as one of the best steel roller coasters in the world, while some still hold this ride to being one of the very best in North America, if not the world. In this video, I want to give a summary of one of the most controversial coasters out there. I'll do my best to discuss what makes this ride controversial, debate talking points I hear about the ride, and give my opinion on how I feel about this coaster. Superman was born in an era of Six Flags where the company purchased property and rides in mass. Before becoming Six Flags New England, the park was known as Riverside Park. Six Flags would purchase the local park and rebrand it to Six Flags New England for the 2000 season. This followed Six Flags also purchasing 2 parks before New England, those 2 parks being what we know now of as Six Flags America and Six Flags Darien Lake. To celebrate the Six Flags branding for all of the parks, they would receive a new coaster, Superman Ride of Steel. These would all be 200-foot tall roller coasters that immediately upon being built would become the focal point of the park they joined. They would come from manufacturer Intamin Amusement Rides, who would be taking their first stab at building a hypercoaster. Hypercoasters did exist at the time, the first one being Magnum XL200 at Cedar Point, built by Aerodynamics in 1989. The ride model had already proved to be a success for many years prior, and Six Flags was determined to give their new parks rides that would make a lasting impact for decades to come. The first 2 versions of Superman Ride of Steel going to Darien Lake and Six Flags America would feature an identical layout from Intamin, just mirrored. The rides would reach a height of 208 feet with a 205-foot drop, reaching speeds up to 73 miles an hour, feature 5 different airtime hills and 2 500-degree helixes. No doubt an action-packed layout, but this was only the beginning for Intamin designing hypercoasters. Because the layout of the previous versions of Superman would not fit on the different plot of Six Flags New England, they had to get creative. And creative they did, because this Superman coaster would be a traditional out and back coaster, meaning a coaster that travels out in one direction and then turns around and returns home, like the wild one at Six Flags America, and a twister coaster, a ride that features a jumbled up section of track, all taking place in one singular area. Superman would make its debut on May 5th, 2000, opening on the back side of the park parallel to the Connecticut River. The ride would feature a 208-foot tall lift hill, identical to the rides at America and Darien Lake, but the drop into the tunnel would give it a 221-foot drop. The first half of the ride would be an out and back section of the coaster, taking on 4 different airtime moments to begin the ride. This leads into the twister section where you will weave through 2 helixes that end with subtle airtime pops, dive into a tunnel, and then follow up with 3 more traditional airtime hills and a fast turn into the brakes to end the ride. The ride has a total length of 5,400 feet and gets all the way up to 77 miles an hour. Upon opening, this will be received as one of the best coasters in the world. After its opening year in 2000, Superman would finish in the top 5 of Amusement Today's Golden Ticket Awards for 20 years straight, from 2001 to 2021, including 5 years where it would win the award for Best Steel Roller Coaster in the world in 2003, and then 4 years straight from 2006 to 2009. The ride for years after would go under massive changes that would shake up the experience and therefore ultimately bring this ride into controversial status. In 2004, a rider was unfortunately killed due to an accident with the ride's restraint system. These restraints had been used by Intamin before on many of their other roller coasters, including the 2 previous Superman coasters at Darien Lake and at Six Flags America. They are also featured on a ride called Millennium Force at Cedar Point, which opened in the same year as Superman. This would cause the ride to close after the accident, and modifications to the trains were made to prevent an incident from occurring again. Metal guards will be installed to the ride's T-bar restraint, as well as replacing the existing seatbelt with a seatbelt that was at a fixed distance to ensure that the ride's main lap bar would fit for each rider. For the most part, from what I know, this wasn't much of a controversial change to the coaster, as it would ensure safety as well as still allowing the airtime the ride was known for. Superman wouldn't feature any more changes until 2009, when Six Flags New England decided to retheme Superman to Bizarro. It would get a new coat of paint and some more theming effects, including signage, rings that the train would pass through, and some building structures that would make it feel like as if you were passing through a city, which is pretty cool in my opinion. While controversial whether this was a good thing, many praised the attempt at theming for the coaster. However, this would come with one change to the ride's restraint type that would serve as a big point of controversy to this very day, but we'll get to that later. After serving as Bizarro for 7 years, the ride would turn back into Superman for 2016, but not Superman Ride of Steel. It would become Superman the Ride. However, we get to another point of former controversy as Six Flags decided to open the ride with a new VR experience. This would mean riding the coaster with a VR headset with a phone encased inside to provide a new experience. This was somewhat controversial, but mostly hated, and would turn out to be a failure as Six Flags would get rid of the VR just a year later. Superman the Ride would go on to be a staple of Six Flags New England, and even 25 years later is the tallest, fastest, and longest roller coaster at the park. To start talking about why this ride is controversial, we need to pivot back to 2009 now. In 2009, the ride received a new lap bar, which would be a lot larger than the typical T-bar restraint that's found on other Intamin coasters. It was a large black lap bar that was a lot heavier than the old restraints, and this is where the controversy arose to a new height. Many complained about the new restraints and still do to this very day. I would say the main point of controversy, these new restraints would be dubbed the U-brick for their U-shape and overall heavy nature. Many say it kills all of the ride's airtime that it used to feature. These restraints, along with other changes made in 2004, made for this ride to be completely uncomfortable for some, and thus unworthy of the title of one of the best steel roller coasters we have to this day. At least at this very moment in 2025, no changes have been made to the restraints. I just made a trip to Six Flags New England less than a month ago, and I heard many things about these restraints, many claiming that this is one of the best roller coasters out there and they can find a way to still experience this ride's airtime in full, others not so much. To make my case for the U-brick, first I want to say I would definitely prefer if the old restraints were still on the coaster, as I've ridden coasters with them and I adore the old T-bar so much. I hope maybe one day that the restraints could change back to the ride to make it more comfortable for every single guest. However, I do not think the U-brick is absolutely terrible. I find that sliding up in my seat helps me deal with the restraint. While I can definitely think that the airtime is neutered to a degree, I can still feel the power as the train is trying to send me into the living atmosphere. There are a total of 6 traditional airtime hills on this ride, and they still give great airtime. For example, one of my favorite hills is the 4th hill right by the ride's photo station and exit. This is the airtime moment that is right in front of the pathway as you are exiting the coaster. This moment is one of my favorite and most powerful ejector airtime moments I have ever felt. Even in the front row, which is typically known for being less powerful with airtime, it still provides a sharp ejector moment that is up there with any other airtime moment that I have felt. It's comparable to El Toro's Camelbacks and even more powerful than any moment on the RMC coaster Wicked Cyclone that's in the same park. Another reason why I think this ride still holds up to this day is the speed that it carries. It's debated where the best seat on this ride is, but I think I prefer the front row. It gives great views of the layout and allows you to feel the full speed and power of the train as it enters each element, including airtime. Due to the long 36-passenger trains on Superman, I think it gives better airtime in the back, but the front is not that far off in my opinion. I've come to appreciate this ride climbing up to 77 miles an hour, which is pretty rare from roller coasters today, and you can experience that speed the best in the front row as the wind is blasting past your face. Speed is one of the shining elements of this coaster, and if you have not gotten to try it in the front row, I would highly encourage it on Superman the Ride. Also something that came with the 2016 refurbishment back to Superman from Bizarro was audio that plays going up the lift hill. Now, I'm about to get my bag with this audio. I absolutely adore this change. I think placing speakers along the lift hill, playing the classic Superman theme by John Williams, the one that you know and love, yeah, that one, the good one, I think this was a perfect addition to the ride. Listening to that theme while climbing up the lift hill for the first time is one of the most unforgettable experiences I've had on any roller coaster. I am a huge comic book fan. Now, while those 70s Superman movies are pretty old, that theme is very iconic to Superman and is even used to this day, even in new movies like the Superman movie that just came out in 2025. It's remixed in that movie. That theme is absolutely perfect, and I think it sets the scene so well for Superman the Ride and gives it that moment that distinguishes it from the other Supermans like the one at Darien Lake and the one at Six Flags America. Even the Superman flying coasters like the one at Six Flags Great Adventure or Six Flags Over Georgia, they do not feature that, and Superman the Ride at Six Flags New England does, and I think it distinguishes it so well for this coaster and makes it clearly the best one by far. However, another point of contention that I hear is that the ride's layout isn't just that good anymore. Like, it's just not that good, that people say. This is a common complaint that I hear about rides like Millennium Force at Cedar Point, which will probably ultimately get a video at some point on this channel someday. Those rides were both opened in the year 2000, 25 years ago from today. Many, many world-class steel roller coasters have been built since then. And with time comes the development of roller coaster layouts over time, and they just get better, undeniably. Rides like Fury 325 at Carowinds and Velocicoaster at Universal Islands of Adventure are world-renowned steel roller coasters that are loved by the public and also feature dynamic layouts. However, I believe Superman still holds up. Millennium Force features a lot of overbagged turns. That's what people complain about on that ride, and it doesn't really feature anything interesting and repeats the same layout. However, Superman is the exact opposite of that. Superman only has one overbanked turn. The layout is still very forceful and provides an entertaining layout on coasters that you would even be seeing built to this day, featuring lots of airtime hills, twister sections, things that riders enjoy even now. Although, some people make the debate that a ride in this park does those features even better. Another debate I hear all the time is that, is this even the best ride at Six Flags New England? In 2015, Rocky Mountain Construction converted one of the park's wooden coasters named Cyclone into a steel hybrid coaster that they would rename Wicked Cyclone. Wicked Cyclone would improve on the former Cyclone, making the ride smooth, more dynamic, and immediately becoming some of the best work RMC had done at the time. This is one of the more highly regarded RMC coasters out there, even to this day, and some say it's the best roller coaster in New England. This is a fun debate, as both of the rides are excellent and make a compelling case as the best roller coaster in the park. When I got to visit Six Flags New England, I always enjoyed making the walk back and forth from Wicked Cyclone to Superman, as they're on complete opposite sides of the park. And I think Superman is the better ride, slightly. I don't think it takes away from the amazement of Wicked Cyclone and everything that it accomplishes. Wicked Cyclone is an excellent RMC, one of the best out there even to this day. However, I still think Superman is the better ride. While Superman can be a fight to enjoy for many, that makes a coaster not as good as it's hyped up to be. But I think, like some other rides, that may be a challenge to understand and figure out. For a lot of people out there, Superman can be a fight to enjoy. It's hard to figure out how you like to sit in the train, how to deal with the U-brake, how to deal with the new shin guards, and how you like to sit in the train overall and enjoy this ride. Whether that's the back row, whether that's the front row, it can be tough to figure out how you like to ride this coaster, and it definitely takes multiple rides to figure out. But if you can figure out how to enjoy this ride, like it may be a challenge to ride some other coasters, Superman the Ride at Six Flags New England is no doubt not a perfect roller coaster, one of the most controversial coasters in the community. But if you are able to figure out how you like to ride this coaster, if you're able to figure out where you want to sit, how to deal with the U-brake, and make it the most enjoyable experience possible, I still think this can be one of the very best coasters out there. The controversy comes from the restraints. It comes from how you ride this coaster, and if the layout is even still that good. But I think if you give Superman a chance, it can still be one of the best. I completely see how rides changes throughout the years with the restraint type and overall development of improvement of roller coasters over time can make this coaster look obsolete and not one of the best out there, but for my money, it definitely is. I love this ride and it lands comfortably in my top 10 roller coasters I've ever been on. While I do think there are better rides out there, this is still one of my absolute favorites and it makes a trip to Six Flags New England always worth it. But what do you guys think? Is Superman one of the best coasters out there or totally not worth the hype? How do you feel about this ride? Let me know in the comments below the video. And if you enjoyed this new thing I'm trying where we discuss the history and controversy of roller coasters, leave a like and subscribe for more videos. But with that, that's the end of this video. Have a great day and peace out.